This week in On the Go, tackling Tampa Bay's transportation issues. That's the work being done at USF's nationally renowned Center for Urban Transportation Research.
Transportation demand management, and public transit really have a leg up in terms of developing the system for everybody to use, doing it efficiently.
Hello and welcome to On the Go, the T-BARTA podcast where we discuss the latest in transit and transportation all across Tampa Bay. I'm your host, T-BARTA Communications Director Chris Jadek, and today we are going to talk about an internationally recognized transportation research center right in our own backyard, and some of the work that is being done to make transportation more efficient, safer, and equitable. That organization is the Center for Urban Transportation Research at USF, which we often refer to as CUTR for short. And our guest is a senior research associate there, Sara Hendricks. Sara, thank you for spending some time with us today.
Thank you.
In a few minutes, we're going to focus on Sara's expertise studying transportation demand management, TDM. But first, let's spend some time to learn more about Sara and the broader mission at CUTR. As a senior research associate at USF Center for Urban Transportation Research, Sara Hendricks brings more than 25 years experience to the study of TDM, growth management, incorporating TDM into planning, as well as bicycle and pedestrian safety, which is getting increased attention in Tampa Bay. She holds a master's of regional planning degree from the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. Sara, you've made transportation research your career. You must find it very rewarding. Why have you chosen this as your life's work?
Thanks, Chris. So I think like many transportation professionals, I wasn't a little kid, 5 years old, thinking, gee, I want to be a transportation professional when I grow up. That's pretty rare. And when I went to school, graduate school, I studied land use and environment. I did have some prior experience in transportation, but I think what really sold me on it is when I was offered the position at CUTR in the early 1990s, there were just a lot of opportunities surrounding transportation. At the time, the state of Florida was a model for the nation in terms of growth management law and comprehensive planning. And, within that lens, transportation demand management, and public transit really have a leg up in terms of developing the system for everybody to use, doing it efficiently. And so I was really excited about that opportunity. Transportation is at the core of our well-being. We don't think about it until maybe we don't have it, whether our car breaks down or the bus doesn't come. It's necessary to accessing jobs, recreation, social services, et cetera. Transportation is vital to our well-being. It's vital to the well-being of our families and to our community. And conversely, we affect the transportation system in the way that we use it. We create demands upon the transportation system that transportation professionals, local, regional, state governments try to accommodate. And so it's kind of a two-way street. And so I'm fascinated by the way we use the transportation system and how we can develop the transportation system to perhaps better guide us in the way we use it to make the system work better, and also at the same time give individuals choices with how to travel.
I do want to spend a little time talking about CUTR, so please give us an overview on that. When people meet you and they ask you where you work, how do you describe the Center for Urban Transportation Research?
CUTR it's a department within the College of Engineering at USF, but we are by no means all engineers. One of the things that attracted me to work at CUTR is its interdisciplinary nature. We have not only engineers, but statisticians, geographers, geographic information systems, experts, economists, regional planners like myself, anthropologists. We have a variety of disciplines, and we work together. So our work benefits from that interdisciplinary nature. We're not ivory tower. We believe in applied research for solutions that can improve immediate issues and problems in the real world. So that's how I would, in a nutshell, describe CUTR.
So, for those not familiar with your field, how does applied research differ from academic research?
Applied research is research that looks at specific practical problems in the world and figures out how to bring science to bear upon solving those specific real world problems. It's not theoretical, it's applied, it's immediate, and it provides cost effective, cost efficient solutions on the ground.
There is a lot of research going on at our universities, and USF has gained increased attention for that. The university is now touted as one of the top 50 public research universities nationwide. How is CUTR part of USF's educational mission? In other words, is part of your work training and teaching the next generation of our transportation leaders and professionals?
So University of South Florida teaches 50,000 plus students, and our primary core mission is to support the student body, student success, and CUTR is perfectly aligned with that. We take very seriously diversity and inclusion. We're very proud that we are a university and a department that supports minority students, students that are from low-income households, as well as students that represent the very first people in their families to earn a bachelor's degree or an advanced degree. At CUTR, we teach, we train the next transportation workforce, the next generation of transportation professionals, and we bring our research to bear upon transportation system work for everybody.
As mentioned, much of your work is in transportation demand management. But before we get to that, can you give me an overview of the other transportation areas that fellow researchers are involved in at CUTR?
Yes, so I have the pleasure of working with a wide range of experts. We are divided into research teams at CUTR. So we have teams that look at autonomous and connected vehicles. We have a team that is involved with ITS, which is Intelligent Transportation Systems, Operations and Safety. We have a specific team that looks at motorcycle safety and reducing crashes for motorcyclists. We have a couple different teams that specifically focus on transit research, including workforce readiness and transit systems safety. We have a management and innovation team that works with transit agencies, providing technical support to help them provide more effective and efficient service, helping them with procurement of vehicles and transit development planning.
So, who does CUTR serve? Who are your clients? And do they compensate CUTR or the university for the work you do?
Aside from our administrative staff at CUTR, we are funded 100% through contracts and grants. And typically, I guess one of our biggest clients over the years has been the Florida State Department of Transportation. It's typical for the department to approach CUTR with particular issues, problems, research topics that they would like us to work on. We provide technical assistance, training, and research, not only for the State Department of Transportation, but other levels of government, Federal Transit Administration, Federal Highway Administration. We work directly with transit agencies. We also work with metropolitan planning organizations, which is the regional appointed bodies that are tasked with figuring out how to allocate federal funding for transportation projects in the urbanized areas. Those are our primary contracts.
Well, you already touched on this next question, how projects originate. Let's talk about that a little bit more. I take it the impetus comes from FDOT, a planning organization, or similar?
Yeah, that's how it works. Another way that issues become research projects is through professional organizations. So the National Academies of Science, Engineering, and Medicine houses what's known as the Transportation Research Board, which is the largest professional organization in the world for transportation. We have probably 12,000 plus transportation professionals and researchers internationally. And there are hundreds of different committees that all relate to different aspects of transportation. And so the committees will get together and develop research statements, research problem abstracts that provide a lot of ideas as to what are the priority to be looked at. And so oftentimes those statements may make their way into work that is funded through the National Cooperative Highway Research Program of USDOT or the Transit Cooperative Research Program and the like.
Let's move on to transportation demand management. For starters, how do you define TDM to those who are not transportation professionals?
Sure. So there's a lot of different ways that you can talk about transportation demand management. The way I like to think about it is that most of our efforts up until about the last 30 years has been building and developing a system of transportation facilities, whether it be highway or other facilities, primarily a highway system. So we were spending a lot of resources and investment in developing this network of highway facilities. Then what happened was in 1991, the first President Bush signed into law the Intermodal Surface Transportation Efficiency Act, which was a landmark piece of transportation legislation that pretty much caused us all to pivot. Instead of building, the emphasis now becomes managing what we have. And with that change came opportunities to figure out, so how do we manage this system in the most efficient way? And at the same time, make sure that everybody has access to transportation. So transportation demand management programs really took off in the early 90s as a result of that. So TDM is a toolbox of programs and services, information and outreach, incentives, disincentives that remove barriers to the use of various types of modes of transportation, whether that be carpooling or van pooling, public transportation, walking, bicycling, even telecommuting or using compressed work week. In other words, instead of driving to the office, you are changing your work schedule to perhaps eliminate a couple trips to and from the office per week, or working from home remotely, like many of us are doing now because of the pandemic. You know, those kinds of choices and the ability to use those choices affect and improve our transportation and access. And at the same time, it can help make the whole system work more efficiently.
Well, the ability to get where you want to go by walking or biking throughout Tampa Bay has not always been given the highest priority. How important is it for us to change that?
With regard to walking, I believe that walking is a basic human right. It is important for all of us to be able to walk safely, comfortably, securely. Bicycling is human-powered transportation that solves a lot of problems all at the same time. It's fun, it's economical, it's climate friendly, and it's economical. So I think that walking and bicycling have so much potential that has been undeveloped up to now. And I think that if we prioritize developing our system to accommodate pedestrians and bicyclists, the system would work a lot better for all of us.
When it comes to biking and walking, how does Tampa Bay stack up with similar metropolitan areas across the nation?
Yeah, so unfortunately, first of all, looking statewide, Florida is number 3 in the nation with regard to the pedestrian fatality rate in terms of pedestrian fatalities per 100,000 population. And we're number 1 for bicycle fatalities. So within the state, we're not doing so well. And then in terms of the region, Tampa Bay is number 8, number 1 being the worst in the nation. We're number 8 in terms of pedestrian fatalities. Now, what I would like to say, though, is that this has been an ongoing issue that has taken on priority importance with our State Department of Transportation, in addition to the metropolitan planning organizations in our region that safety is a number one priority. And for several years now, policies have been changing to tip the balance towards prioritizing bicycle and pedestrian safety. And so in the last few years, we have begun to see a lot of improvements in that regard.
Well, one emerging trend is bike lanes. They are becoming more ubiquitous on our roadways, not everywhere, but more so than I would have seen, say, 10 or 20 years ago. Are there other emerging trends related to biking and walking and similar transportation issues?
Yeah, so my first thought is networks. In our area, we have a system where if a street is about to be resurfaced, that's an opportunity to put in a bike lane. And so there's this piecemeal development of bike lanes throughout the community. I think that we're getting to a point where we are seeing the value of a connected network where people can actually bicycle from point A to point B on a bicycle facility. And so, there's a great deal of value in that. Statewide, there is the shared use non-motorized trail system that the Florida Department of Transportation provides funding to municipalities to develop connections between community trail systems. So the goal being that at some point you can ride your bike from Key West all the way to Pensacola on a statewide network of off-road paved paths. So the power of the network, I think, is going to enable people to understand that walking and bicycling is not just for recreation, it can be for transportation. And I think there's gaining more support for it when people realize that this is an opportunity for economic development, ecotourism, and the like.
And that brings us to the next question. The choice of the individual in deciding what they will do to get where they want to go as conveniently, safely, and economically as possible seems fundamental to the work in TDM. It is one thing to change access to biking and walking, but is there also a perception issue with the individual that this is not a great place to bike or walk? Because for the longest time, Tampa Bay has been an area where you needed your own car to get to most places.
Absolutely. And there are a lot of efforts to address exactly that. There are a multitude of bicycle clubs for people who want to take up bicycling. And oftentimes what happens is people, they take up bicycling just for recreation. And as they get better at it, they realize I can ride my bike for transportation. So there's advocacy relating to helping people discover the joy of riding one's bicycle. And so, for example, I have a colleague, Julie Bond, who provides tech support to Bike Walk Tampa Bay, which is a coalition of organizations that work together to promote safe bicycling for all trip purposes. So that's one example. There's the Florida Bicycle Association. There are national organizations like the League of American Bicyclists and various programs under these organizations, such as bicycle-friendly businesses. So the city of Tampa is, I believe, #1 in the United States with regard to the total number of bicycle-friendly businesses. And so when you have bike-friendly businesses, they provide bike parking and facilities and make it very comfortable and welcoming for people who arrive at your business or your office or workplace by bicycle. Showers, lockers, etc. I think that there's a multitude of things that we can do and we actually are doing to chip away at that perception that this region is bike and walking unfriendly. And then, of course, the whole Complete Streets movement to create spaces, safe spaces for pedestrians at the street level that makes it safe, secure, and comfortable to walk.
Well, just a minute ago, we were talking about TRIMS. Tell us what that is and how it relates to transportation research.
Yes, the TRIMS model stands for Trip Reduction Impacts of Mobility Management Strategies. And so this is a model that was developed by my colleagues a few years ago, Dr. Cecinio Conkas and Phil Winters. It is a spreadsheet essentially that allows transportation planners to input data relating to combinations of transportation demand management strategies to compute a benefit cost ratio with regard to the kinds of societal benefits that will accrue to applying those combinations of transportation demand management strategies. So combinations could be high occupancy vehicle lanes, managed lanes on highway facilities to give time advantage to buses, carpools, and van pools. And then couple that with parking management strategies at the destinations so that parking is managed in terms of supply as well as pricing. There could even be dynamic pricing that kind of right sizes the amount of parking and the price for parking that incentivizes people to use carpooling, vanpooling, and the bus instead of driving alone, and creating a lot of traffic congestion and a lot of empty seats going down the highway.
So it seems to provide you a guideline for measurement, a way to quantify the potential benefits, costs, and disadvantages of any program being considered. Is that right?
That's exactly right, Chris. And the model can take into consideration a variety of things, including safety, improvement in safety as a result of applying transportation demand management strategies, reduction in parking supply requirements. In downtowns, you don't want to waste a lot of space in the downtown with parking lots and parking garages. There are higher and better uses of space in the downtown. So you really want as little parking as you can get away with. And other effects like clean air, better air quality as a result of using transportation, traffic congestion reduction, and also health benefits. People who walk and bike tend to be healthier. So there's a variety of different benefits. And I think I'm probably forgetting a few, but it's a very comprehensive tool that enables us to think more clearly about what the benefits are to our choices.
Well, automation is getting a lot of attention these days, and it is impacting transportation. The most public example of that might be technology companies such as Tesla, even though Tesla is not alone. But Elon Musk makes headlines, as he did recently, when he said he expects Tesla to complete development of fully autonomous driving by the end of the year. Well, there's a lot to unpack with that, but let me just start with this, a rather broad question. How is this rapidly developing technology impacting the way you tackle the TDM issues of today?
Well, I think that when we consider automation, such as autonomous vehicles, the first thing that comes to mind is the possibility that at some point in the future, we might not own our own passenger cars. It might be more of either a privately or publicly owned fleet of vehicles that one might reserve or call up and pick us up at our house and take us someplace. And that fleet of shared vehicles might provide single occupant vehicle experience, or it might be a shared ride amongst people that are going in the same direction and are destined to proximate destinations. So I think that's the first thing that people think of in terms of how autonomous vehicles might translate to transportation demand management.
Well, the future is exciting, but let's get back to today. As I move about in Tampa Bay, what are some of the things I will experience or perhaps am already benefiting from because of your research and the work of your colleagues at CUTR?
So, for example, through the National Institute for Congestion Reduction, CUTR is a university transportation center designated by the US DOT. And as part of the National Institute for Congestion Reduction, also known as NICER, that supports a variety of different types of research projects that deal in some way with alleviating traffic congestion and improving safety and equity. And so one of the projects that we are working on is evaluating a technology known as vehicle occupancy detection. So a private vendor has developed this technology that can be used as a smartphone app. And basically what it does is it applies biometric face detection, and two or more people in a car can use this app to click a snapshot of them in the same frame. And the app will register that, yes, this is indeed a carpool. And so the app then can deliver digital rewards to that carpool, such as discounted or free access to a managed lane or preferential carpool parking at their destination. And so we're working with the vendor to test this vehicle occupancy detection capability to see how accurate and reliable it is. And we're feeling very optimistic about this and excited because it can really open up the world for managed lanes in the future, so that we are optimizing the use of scarce highway space and giving us a lot more ability to tilt the advantage towards high occupancy vehicles. So that would be buses, including school buses, as well as carpools and van pools, and give those vehicles the time advantage of a dedicated lane. That's one example of some technology that we're testing right now.
There's a lot of talk in Washington. I should say there's more than talk, actually. We have a new infrastructure bill, and I know that a lot of localities and the state is anxiously looking for some of the dollars that can come our way. Our local transit agencies and T-BARTA included, looking at how some of that influx of money from the federal government may be impacting our transportation. Can you tell us what's going on there?
I think we're still all studying and unpacking everything that's part of that bill, but it seems clear that there is a lot of opportunity and additional funds, not just to prepare or to repair our infrastructure, but also to put more services in place with regard to public transit. There's also something known as a carbon reduction plan that states will have to develop. And with that, there's the potential for that to shift the emphasis to alternative transportation, alternative fuels, alternative transportation modes as ways to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. So I'm particularly excited about that possibility.
Sara, we're going to leave it at that. Thank you for joining us today. Once again, you've been listening to Sara Hendricks, Senior Research Associate at CUTR, USF's Center for Urban Transportation Research. I'm Chris Jadek, and this is On the Go, the Transit and Transportation Podcast from the Tampa Bay Area Regional Transit Authority.